That's why, like this morning, I was talking there about, another type of crime as to whether you can find the taxi man 100% to blame for this or not. I don't know. But he just snapped. This student called Owen Daly was picked up by David Ryan, a 56-year-old taxi driver. Daly and another passenger got into the taxi around about 3 o'clock in the morning in Dublin. But when he was dropping them off, David Ryan, the taxi driver, when he was dropping them off, the two passengers ran from the taxi without paying. This misfortunate taxi driver was finding it tough anyway. He was under a lot of financial pressure, financial strain, trying to pay his bills, trying to make a living. But he still did something that he said disgusted him. He snapped and he ran over the student who refused to pay the fare. I spoke about that earlier on this morning, and I said, it happens more than you know. Ken Cash is a Cork taxi driver, a regular contributor to this programme. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Did that surprise you, that kind of a story?
It did, to the extreme that the taxi driver went to, yeah, but I can see his point, you know. I was just thinking as I was on to Emer there, I had a similar situation. I think I sent you on the email last year during the Cove Regatta where my taxi was more or less hijacked inside and up in the top of the hills up in Cove. Just tell us the story again anyway, Ken. So during the regatta, I was driving minibus at the time, and I drove 6 lads up to the top of Cove, up the top of the hills in Cove. And when they got up there, they were going to a party, but there was no party, and they wanted to go back down. And I told them there was a tenner already on the meter, and it was going to cost them another tenner to come back down into town. And long and short is they wouldn't pay. They wouldn't pay, and they wouldn't get out. So I drove them back down to town, and I rang the Cove Gardaí on my mobile while I was going down, and the boys refused to pay, refused to get out, and they were shouting and roaring while I was talking to the Gardaí. So eventually, as I was coming back down through the town, one of the lads pulled the handbrake on the minibus, and they all absconded out through the side door. And they were all going up this small hill called Spy Hill, and I can distinctly remember thinking to myself, I'd love to put the car into first gear and go up the hill after them. But at the same time, you don't do that.
I know. You thought about it, though, in fairness.
I flipping did think about it.
Yeah. So you suffered the loss of the fare.
You suffered the loss of the fare, that was it, chap. But I went down to the Cove Gardaí station after, and they were very good to me. The guard said to me that his biggest concern was my welfare, listening to the phone call that he received.
Oh, you were that upset?
No, there was that much noise and screaming going on inside in the van.
Yeah. You know, the case of this taxi driver also indicates that in 2010, the same taxi driver had a can of beer smashed in his face by another person doing a runner or evading a fare.
This goes on, Neil. Sorry, this goes on a lot. I meant to send an email a few weeks ago. Is that a base colleague of mine picked up a fare on McCurtain Street, and never made the news or anything. He picked up a base fare. He picked up a fare, on McCurtain Street, drove the boys up to the bottom of Gardiner's Hill, where they got out of the car, demanded his wallet, which he gave them. Then they got out of the car and they slashed him across the forearm with a knife after getting the wallet.
I didn't hear that until now.
No,
I mean,
it was never reported on the news.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of these type assaults or muggings or attacks never get reported. We never hear about it. Yeah, it's you guys actually. You taxi drivers, I've always said, are the eyes and ears of the city. You know exactly what's going on in Cork.
We try to police it as best we can. You know, I ring the Gardaí pretty regularly if I see an incident or if I see somebody in trouble. You know, try not to interfere as best I can because I leave the authorities to look after it. You know, but it can be hard going dealing with people because you just don't know what's coming around the corner. They get into your car and you don't know what you're dealing with. You just have to put up with it. The general rule of people is actually the golden rule of most taxi drivers: never leave your cab.
Never get out.
Never get out, regardless. If your man gets out and runs away, you just let him go.
Right.
That's my theory anyway, and that would be the theory of the majority of drivers.
Right. Now, this guy, Owen Daly, is also taking a civil action against the taxi driver. This is interesting because the taxi driver, David Ryan, says the only way that he'd be able to settle any kind of compensation claims would be to sell his house.
I haven't heard of the case, Neil. If I can believe that's true, yeah.
Yeah. I can't take from the fact that he did run down a guy, but I see an amount of culpability and blame on the student doing the runner as well, I have to say. And for some reason, I feel very, very sorry for the taxi driver. I really do. You know, I know he snapped and everything. What?
He was obviously pushed to his limits on the night, you know?
Yeah, he had no previous convictions or anything like that. He wasn't known to the guards or anything. He was just trying to pay his bills, father of 4. Worked as a taxi driver for over 25 years. I think it's very hard on him. I really do.
That's the way things go, unfortunately.
You have to make a call, do you? Do you have to make a call on the person lightning quick when they get into your taxi?
Once they get into your taxi, you're stuck with them. You've got to make the call when you see them on the street. You've got about a second to see them on the street. If they can, generally speaking, if they can stand, you'll take them. That's kind of the rule. If they can stand. If they're wobbling, again, it depends on a Friday or Saturday night. You want sober people.
Yeah, I know.
But if it's a wet Wednesday night, if he can stand, he'll do fine.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got about a second and a half to make your judgment looking at the person on the street.
And by and large, you make the right call, do you?
Generally speaking, you do. I got a bad lad there a few weeks back on Oliver Plunkett Street, and he brought me all over Wilton and refused to pay, and when he couldn't find his house and blah blah, he gave out to stink to me. But I had noticed along the way that he had dropped his iPhone on the floor. I didn't say a word about it. But anyway, he got out of the car and he abused me and this and that, and I said at the end I told him to F off, and I drove off, knowing full well that I had his iPhone.
Yeah.
He rang the next day and he got a good bollocking off me for what happened the night before. And I told him his phone was in the base and he could come into the base and he'd get his phone back on return of the fare, which he had run up to €23 driving all over Wilton that night.
Good man.
And I went into the base to meet him and I gave him another bollocking inside in the base that night.
Right. Was he apologetic or did he recall the incident?
Very. No, he didn't recall it.
See, two different people would drink, you see. Isn't that amazing?
Most definitely. He was a very nice lad the next day. He was like an altar boy.
Amazing, isn't it? Amazing. Yeah. I know. You know, in New York City or in London, you're in the back of the London cab or the New York cab. You're in an enclosed area. The doors are locked and there is a chute. You pay the money through the chute and at that point they will unlock your door and you can get out.
That's correct. I've heard that. I think it's the same in Belfast as well.
Yeah, with the black cabs, yeah.
Yeah, but the Cork is different. You pay your money, you take your chances.
I know. Okay. All right, Ken. Listen, I appreciate the call as always. Look